Friday's days of our lives may look quiet on the surface, but this could be the kind of episode that leaves the deepest damage behind. Because sometimes in Salem, the most dangerous hour is not the one where everything explodes at once. It is the one where emotions shift, secrets tighten, and one wrong move starts pushing every storyline toward the edge. That is exactly why Friday feels so important. This may not be the day every bomb goes off. It may be the day every fuse gets lit. So let's break it all down, because Friday, April 24th may not just close out the week. It may set the stage for Salem's next major disaster. Let's start with Alex and Stephanie, because their Friday scenes may carry a quiet emotional weight that is easy to underestimate at first. On the surface, this looks like a welcome reset. After all the recent strain, distance, and uncertainty, a reconnection could feel like proof that their relationship still has a pulse. But that may be exactly why these moments matter. The show may not be using this reunion to reassure viewers. It may be using it to make viewers nervous. When a couple finds their way back to each other in Salem, it rarely means the danger has passed. More often, it means the writers want to restore the emotional bond before putting it under even greater pressure. That may be what is happening here. Friday could remind us that Alex and Stephanie still care deeply about each other, and that neither of them is fully ready to let go. But that warmth may come with a shadow hanging over it. Because Joy is still out there, and her return is not tied to a minor complication. It is tied to baby news that could instantly change the emotional balance of this story. That makes Friday's reconnection feel less like resolution and more like emotional positioning. If Stephanie allows herself to believe that things are finally settling down, even for one moment, then the next reveal becomes more painful. If Alex starts to feel hopeful again, then that hope may be exactly what gets shattered next. What makes this story effective is not just the romance. It is the timing. Friday may give Alex and Stephanie a softer, more intimate chapter, but precisely because something harsher is waiting right behind it. And when Days chooses to slow a relationship down right before a major disruption, it is usually a sign that the real fallout has not happened yet. So yes, they may reconnect. But the real question is whether this reunion is healing anything, or simply making the next emotional hit land harder. Now shifting away from romance and into something more strained, Friday may show Sarah reaching a far more serious emotional place with Xander. What makes this dynamic stand out is that Sarah's anger does not feel sudden. It feels worn down, built up over time. And that distinction matters, because the most dangerous relationship conflicts are often not the loudest ones. They are the ones that come after too many disappointments have already piled up. That may be where Sarah is now. If she simply snaps at Xander, that is one level of conflict. But if she speaks to him with visible exhaustion, as if she no longer has the energy to explain what should already be obvious, then the tone of this story changes completely. At that point, the issue is no longer just irritation. It becomes disillusionment, and Sarah has plenty weighing on her already. Chanel's health scare is not something she can brush aside. As a doctor, Sarah is wired to act, assess, and protect when the situation turns serious. That kind of responsibility already creates pressure. Add personal stress on top of that, and it becomes easier to understand why her patience may be wearing thin. So if Xander shows poor judgment, emotional selfishness, or simply fails to meet her where she is, Sarah may not respond with ordinary annoyance. She may respond like someone who is beginning to question the bigger picture. This may be less about one wrong move from Xander and more about Sarah hitting an internal limit. The kind of moment where she starts viewing every new problem through the lens of old frustrations. And once that shift happens, the relationship becomes much harder to steady, because the argument is no longer about the present. It starts pulling in the past too. So Friday could mark a subtle but meaningful turning point. Not necessarily the end of Sarah and Xander, but perhaps the point where her anger hardens into something colder, and much more difficult to fix. Then there is Brady, whose role in Friday's episode may feel less like a side beat and more like the emotional backbone of the hour. What makes Brady's scenes potentially so strong is that they seem rooted in something very clear: loyalty. Not ego, not romance, not ambition, just raw protective instinct. And Brady tends to be most effective when the show leans into that part of him. If he is upset over how Marlena is being treated, that tells us two things immediately. First, it suggests the situation has crossed a line in his mind. Brady is not reacting as a passive observer here. He is reacting like a son who believes someone he loves has been disrespected, hurt, or placed in an unfair position. That makes his anger feel emotionally grounded rather than dramatic for the sake of drama. Second, it gives Marlena's storyline extra weight. Even if Marlena herself stays calm or tries not to make a scene, Brady's response may signal that the damage is real. Sometimes in soap storytelling, the most revealing clue is not what happens to a character. It is how strongly someone else reacts to it. If Brady is this fired up, viewers are meant to understand that something about this situation is deeply wrong. Brady has been in a period of transition, personally and professionally, so moments like this help recenter the character. They remind viewers what still defines him underneath all the shifting storylines: family loyalty, emotional instinct, and a refusal to stay quiet when someone he loves is under pressure. In an episode full of tension, secrets, and unstable relationships, that kind of clarity can be powerful. So Brady's scenes on Friday may do more than defend Marlena. They may give the episode a moral center, while also adding even more heat to a Salem landscape that is already dangerously close to boiling over. Then we come to what may become Friday's most explosive visual moment: Kristen slapping EJ. At first glance, it is easy to treat this as classic DiMera chaos. A burst of temper, a family clash, a shocking beat designed to grab attention. But the real value of this scene may not be the slap itself. It may be the emotional state it exposes. Because Kristen does not usually lash out without something heavier driving her. Right now, she is not operating from simple anger. She is operating from pressure, resentment, and the kind of dangerous urgency that comes when a character is already involved in something far more reckless behind the scenes. Her alliance with Sophia gives this confrontation a darker layer immediately. It means Kristen is not just upset in the moment. She is already carrying a secret agenda, and that makes every emotional crack in her composure more important. If Kristen reaches the point where she openly slaps EJ, then Friday may be showing us that her self-control is slipping. And when restraint starts breaking down for someone like Kristen, the problem is rarely the public outburst. The bigger problem is what follows once the anger has somewhere to go. That is where EJ's role becomes crucial. If he provokes her, belittles her, or pushes her into feeling cornered, then this may not be just another sibling-style DiMera clash. It may be a warning sign that the balance between them is becoming more unstable. Kristen may be reaching the point where she no longer sees any value in playing nice, staying careful, or disguising her hostility. Once that happens, the conflict stops being theatrical and starts becoming dangerous. Because a slap is visible, it is immediate, it gives viewers a shocking moment to react to. But the emotional message underneath it may be much more unsettling. Kristen is no longer containing herself. She may be done pretending this is just family tension or personal resentment. The fury is now close enough to the surface that it is spilling out in public. So yes, the slap may be the scene everyone talks about. But what may linger after Friday is the realization that if Kristen is this volatile in front of people, then whatever she is planning in private could be even worse. From there, the episode may pivot away from open conflict and into something quieter, but potentially far more disturbing. Sophia waiting for further instructions may not sound dramatic on paper, yet it could become one of Friday's most effective sources of tension. That is because waiting changes the shape of a storyline. It tells viewers that the plot is no longer hypothetical. The plan exists. The pieces are already moving. All that remains is the signal that pushes everything forward. And that kind of suspense can be more unnerving than action. What makes Sophia's scenes especially compelling is that she does not seem fully steady. She seems anxious. That detail matters more than it first appears. A calm villain feels deliberate. A nervous participant feels unstable. And instability is often where soap plots become most dangerous, because people acting under pressure are far more likely to panic, misread a situation, or hit the wrong target. That is why Sophia's position in this story feels so ominous. She may not be the mastermind, but she is close enough to the plan to become part of the fallout. And the fact that she is waiting for someone else to direct her only makes the situation worse. It means she is operating without real control, while still being close enough to the action to do real damage. That is a volatile combination. The more this plot moves forward, the more it feels possible that Johnny may not be the only one at risk. Chanel's name keeps hovering over the story because soap plots like this rarely stay clean. They spiral, they miss, they hit the person standing nearby. So if Sophia acts too fast, gets rattled, or follows through without fully thinking it through, Chanel could become the one who pays for a scheme that was never meant to land on her. While other storylines may revolve around repair, confrontation, or emotional loyalty, Sophia's scenes may revolve around dread. Not because something huge has already happened, but because the episode may make it clear that something huge now feels close. Her waiting is not empty pause. It is loaded silence, the kind that tells viewers the story is standing on the edge of a very bad decision. And sometimes, that kind of tension is even more effective than an actual explosion, because it forces the audience to sit with the fear of what may be coming next. By the end of Friday's Days of Our Lives, the biggest takeaway may not be that Salem changed overnight. It may be that every major storyline moved one step closer to breaking. Alex and Stephanie may rediscover each other just in time for fresh heartbreak. Sarah may be drifting into a colder, more serious kind of anger with Xander. Brady may prove that when Marlena is threatened, he will not stay quiet. Kristen may show the world just how little restraint she has left when it comes to EJ. And Sophia may continue inching toward a decision that could send this whole week into much darker territory. That is why Friday feels so important. Not because it promises one giant explosion right away, but because it may quietly line up several of them at once. And in Salem, that is often when the real trouble begins. So the question is no longer whether chaos is coming. The question is who gets caught in it first.